side will stand and always.
Here come the teardrops falling again. Shooting at a boyfriend's Scooby-Doo.
Every time my heart feels wrong, and you got to have me in your life.
I promise you'll be on my mind. 'Cause every time my heart beats, I'm talking about today.
I'm singing Mary, oh Mary, don't you weep. Let our hearts sing hey. I wonder why I feel like my heart beats, girl. To be the prettiest, the tell Martha not to moan, Martha, don't you moan. If I'm all you need, all you'll ever need.
Shooting at a boyfriend.
Every time I hear my heartbeat, every time I hear my heart.
They were in one of the most iconic movie scenes in R&B history. But what happened next? Why did the industry erase Riff after giving them a moment of glory? They weren't just background singers. They were the moment in Lean On Me, that famous bathroom scene. That was Riff, and for a hot minute, it looked like they were gonna be the next Boys II Men. But behind the harmonies was a mess of shady label deals, broken promises, touring nightmares, and a quiet blacklisting that took them out before they even had a chance. So how does a group go from a blockbuster film to being broke, forgotten, and locked out of the game? Most people think Riff was just some random group of guys who lucked out with a movie cameo in Lean On Me, like they were actors pretending to be singers. That's the story Hollywood wants you to believe. 5 fresh-faced teens in a bathroom, harmonizing in perfect pitch, going viral before the internet even existed. And yeah, that scene was iconic. But here's the twist most people never catch. Riff wasn't born in that bathroom. They were already a real group before the cameras started rolling. See, what the movie didn't show you was the years of grinding these guys had already put in. The group, made up of Michael Best, Kenny Kelly, Anthony Fuller, Stephen Capers, and Dwayne Jones, was formed in Paterson, New Jersey. They'd been singing together as high schoolers under the name Playboys of Rhythm, way before Hollywood knocked. Their talent was real, raw, and local legit. They were already drawing buzz for their street corner harmonies and Motown-style polish. But when Lean On Me dropped in 1989, suddenly they were frozen in time, forever labeled as that group from the bathroom scene. It was like their entire identity got swallowed by a single moment. And while the world thought that scene launched their career, it actually boxed them in. That was the beginning of the misconception. People didn't take them seriously as artists because the industry never gave them the chance to grow past the movie. They weren't being developed like Boys II Men or Jodeci. They were being branded as a novelty. And let's be real, once Hollywood gets a stereotype stuck to you, good luck shaking it. For Riff, that bathroom harmony turned into both a calling card and a cage. Let's call it what it is. Riff was never meant to succeed, not in the way other groups were groomed, promoted, and protected. From the jump, they were dropped into the spotlight, but with no safety net, no plan, and no label strategy behind them. Think about it. You just starred in one of the most memorable music scenes in film history, and your label doesn't even capitalize on it? That's not bad luck. That's bad business, or worse, intentional neglect. Riff signed with SBK Records, which was a sub-label under the EMI umbrella. Now here's where it gets messy. SBK had too many artists, too little budget, and zero clue how to handle a group like Riff. They weren't being groomed like a shiny pop act. They weren't marketed like a soul group. And because they didn't fit neatly into one of the industry's little boxes, they were treated like a side quest. Meanwhile, groups like Boys II Men had the full force of Motown and Michael Bivins behind them. Jodeci had Uptown Records with Diddy pushing the gas pedal. Riff, they were just there. No star-studded cosigns, no hit-making producers, no strategic rollout. Just 5 talented dudes left to figure it out on their own, while the label barely returned their calls. And the moment they started asking questions about tour budgets, about promotion, about why their videos weren't being played, they got labeled as difficult. That's the kiss of death in this industry. Once you get that tag, doors don't just close, they slam. Riff didn't fall off because they weren't good. They were quietly pushed out because they asked for what they deserved. You'd think being in a classic film like Lean on Me would launch your career into the stratosphere, right? Wrong. For Riff, it was a blessing on the surface, but behind the scenes, it was a setup. That bathroom scene, instant classic. People were obsessed with their harmonies, their energy, their look. For a moment, they were the face of feel-good, soulful teenage talent, but the industry saw them as just that, a movie gimmick. And when the hype died down, so did the calls. Their debut album, Riff, dropped in 1991. It had real gems, My Heart Is Failing Me, If You're Serious, Every Time My Heart Beats, all showcasing those butter-smooth vocals. But here's the thing, the album barely got promotion. No big rollout, no radio blitz, no MTV rotation. Their Lean on Me fame was never translated into a long-term music strategy. It was like the label thought, hey, they were in a movie. People will find them on their own. And we all know that's not how the music industry works. And it gets worse. Riff actually toured with some major names. LL Cool J, TLC, Boyz II Men. They were out there grinding, hitting city after city, but no one really knew who they were. Promoters didn't push them, venues didn't highlight them, and they rarely even got press. Imagine being on the same stage as chart toppers and still feeling invisible. That's when it became clear. Lean on Me was a spotlight, but it came with no foundation. Riff was famous, but not supported, recognized, but not respected. And the worst part, everyone assumed they were winning, while behind the scenes, they were trying to keep the lights on. Now here's where things take a dark turn. After the lackluster rollout of their debut album, Riff still tried to bounce back. They hit the studio again and dropped their second album, To Whom It May Concern, in 1993. And guess what? It flopped. Not because it was bad. No, it actually had some of their strongest material. It flopped because the label did absolutely nothing to support it. No tour push, no music video investment, no radio campaign, just vibes and dust. At this point, the industry had already started distancing itself. Word on the street was that Riff had issues, but let's decode what that really means in industry speak. They wanted fair pay, they wanted real marketing, they wanted answers about their contracts. And when artists start asking those kinds of questions without a major machine backing them, that's when the whisper campaigns begin. Insiders say they clashed with SBK execs who didn't know how to market black vocal groups without a crossover gimmick. Riff didn't want to be molded. They weren't trying to slap on matching suits and smile for the cameras if the back-end checks weren't right. That rubbed people the wrong way. One member allegedly pushed to go solo. Another was reportedly vocal about creative control. And just like that, the group was labeled difficult. That word, difficult, is the industry's favorite code for "we're done with you." It's the kiss of death that gets whispered in boardrooms and silently passed between A and Rs. Suddenly, your calls don't get returned. Your gigs dry up. Other labels don't want to take the risk. And just like that, Riff wasn't just neglected. They were blacklisted. Their career didn't end with a scandal. It ended with silence. When the label pulled the plug, Riff did what a lot of artists do when the machine stops moving. They hit the road. But this wasn't the glamorous, sold-out tour life you'd expect. This was the gritty version. Long drives, small venues, busted sound systems, and barely enough money to cover the hotel rooms. And even with all that effort, they were constantly fighting a losing battle. Because behind the scenes, the industry had already moved on. Promoters stopped calling. Radio DJs, many of whom had been fans, suddenly stopped spinning their songs. Bet? Quiet? MTV? Please. The vibe shifted. There was a clear sense that Riff wasn't hot anymore. But it wasn't about talent. It was about access. And Riff no longer had it. People in the know started whispering about a blacklist. Was it official? Of course not. These things never are. But there were rumors, talk of unpaid debts, internal disagreements, ego clashes, maybe even an exec or two who got their feelings hurt. And in this industry, that's enough to get you ghosted. Once you're on that invisible do not touch list, it's game over. The group tried to reinvent themselves. They experimented with new sounds, talked about switching management, and even floated the idea of a name change. But the reality was brutal. No one wanted to take the risk. Riff had talent, sure, but they also had baggage. And in a business where perception is everything, That was enough to keep every door closed. Their final shows as Riff were small, underpromoted, and bittersweet. They were singing their hearts out to crowds that barely remembered their names. No media coverage, no industry support, just echoes of a career that never got its second act. After the dust settled, the guys from Riff scattered in different directions. Some chased solo dreams, some stepped away from music entirely, and others quietly rebranded. In the late 90s and early 2000s, a few members popped back up under the name Men of Vision, hoping to reinvent the group with a new sound and a fresh look. But even that comeback was complicated. The name was already associated with another R&B group signed to Michael Jackson's MJJ label, and the overlap confused fans. The result? Another promising return that fizzled before it could catch fire. Over the years, the members of Riff took on day jobs, performed at local events, and tried to keep their legacy alive on their own terms. They never had that big unsung moment. No major reunion tour, no glossy documentary deal, just Instagram throwbacks, occasional interviews, and 90s nostalgia concerts where diehard fans still sing every word from that bathroom scene. And here's the heartbreaking part. When you hear them now, they still sound good. Like, really good. The harmonies are still tight, the voices are still there, but the industry that once gave them a glimmer of hope never came back around. No redemption arc, no second wave, just silence. Some fans still ask what happened, others don't even realize that the guys from Lean On Me were a real group to begin with. That's how deep the erasure runs. And while their names may not be plastered across awards shows or streaming charts, the imprint they left, however brief, is still felt by those who paid attention. Riff didn't just represent talent. They represented what happens when the machine doesn't back you, and when timing, politics, and pride can bury even the best voices in the room. Riff should have been a household name. Let's be real. They had the vocals, the look, the cinematic launch that most artists could only dream of. But when the smoke cleared, they were left with no awards, no chart toppers, no headlines, just whispers of whatever happened to those guys from Lean On Me. And that's the real tragedy. Not that they flopped, but that they were forgotten. Their net worth today? Practically nothing. A few thousand here and there from small performances or local gigs. Maybe the occasional check from a nostalgia show. No big publishing deals, no hit singles to collect residuals from. Just raw talent, left unpaid. And yet, their voices live on. That Lean On Me scene, it's still used in classrooms, in social media clips, in top movie music moments lists. But how many people know the group behind it? Riff gave the culture a moment, and the culture, well, the industry, gave them nothing in return. They're not remembered like Boyz II Men. They're not name-dropped like Jodeci, but maybe they should be, because Riff was the cautionary tale. The group that proved talent alone isn't enough. Without the right team, the right timing, and the right treatment, even legends in the making can be lost to time. They didn't get the flowers, but they laid down the soil. Riff didn't fall off. They were cut out, quietly, strategically, without fanfare or public scandal. And that might be the coldest part. No one warned them. No one told them they were done. The phone just stopped ringing. The bookings dried up. The label moved on. They had the voices. They had the hunger. And they had a moment. But the industry, with all its polished packaging and behind-the-scenes politics, decided Riff wasn't worth investing in. And just like that, they became background noise in their own story. Today, they're barely a footnote in R&B history. But if you listen closely, you'll still hear their harmony echoing in that one bathroom scene. A single perfect performance that screamed, "Remember us," even as the world quietly chose to forget. So next time someone asks, whatever happened to Riff? Just tell them the truth. They had the talent. The industry had the scissors.